So, my dear students, I welcome you to my class. And today we will learn speech analysis. You know that speech is very important because while you deliver a speech, you communicate with your audience, and your audience also assesses you. And if your speech is systematically developed, if your speech is catchy, if your delivery is competent, then your purpose will be solved, or will be served. And if your speech is not systematically structured, if you do not understand your audience, if you can't decide the purpose of your speech or objective of your speech, or if your delivery is not attractive, then your presentation may fail. So while delivering a speech, we have to think of different factors related to the speech delivery. Now, today we will learn how to analyze a speech. And I like to share the screen for your sake so that you can understand the lesson easily. So I now believe you can see the screen. Can you see the screen, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the title of our today's lecture is speech analysis. And as you find on the screen, first of all, I have mentioned here some important aspects that you have to consider while analyzing a speech. And then I have given an example. You know, this is a speech of Abraham Lincoln, which is very popularly known as Gettysburg Address, because this speech was delivered by Abraham Lincoln in a place, the name of the place is Gettysburg. As this speech is delivered there, it is called Gettysburg Address. And this speech was delivered in 19 November 1863. That is nearly or more than 150 years ago. So we will read this speech today and try to analyze it. We will apply our knowledge regarding speech analysis. And I have also shared an example of speech analysis. That is how you will have to analyze a speech, or what things you have to consider during the analysis of a speech. So I have given an example, and you find the photo of Abraham Lincoln, 19th president of United States of America, who fought against slavery in America. He wanted to establish an America which would be congenial to everybody. That is, for the black people, for the white people, for everybody. So he was really a very great man. He was a great president. And he had also a philosophy to bring all diverse people together in a single platform. So he's a great personality, widely acclaimed, widely respected all over the world. This is Abraham Lincoln. And here you will find the analysis. So anyway, then I like to summarize today's lecture highlights. Today we will learn some aspects of speech analysis. and some techniques. And I believe after learning these techniques, we will be able to analyze our speech. And then in our lecture, we will learn our speech, a very famous speech of Abraham Lincoln, who was the 19th president of the United States of America. This speech is historically known as Gettysburg Address. So we will learn this speech, and then afterwards, we will analyze this speech. So this is our today's lecture highlight. And first of all, I acknowledge my debt to different sites of our cyber technology. I also acknowledge my debt to Google because I have collected materials from Google. So let's start our today's discussion. To analyze a speech, consider its purpose. So while you are analyzing a speech, first of all, think of its purpose. That is, for what purpose is the speech delivered? This is very important. If you don't know the purpose of your speech, you can't analyze it appropriately. And secondly, you have to think of the target audience for whom you are delivering the speech. And in third place, you have to know the structure. So what's the structure? What should be the structure? I think you know the outlines of a speech, as you have learned in my classes. In several classes, I have discussed the outlines of a speech, how to structure a speech, how to develop a speech, how to make a speech effective. I believe you have learned all these things. So you have to decide the structure of the speech and think of it. Then think of the content or the subject matter, the essence of your speech. Your speech must not be vacuum. Suppose you are delivering a speech on political turmoil in our country. So while you are discussing political turmoil in our country, you have to produce some data in your speech. You have to accumulate some authentic information in your speech. You have to give some examples. You have to share your own experience. So these are the things that can constitute the content of your speech. So speech must be full of contents, and a speech should have the essence, what message you want to transmit into your audience. You must incorporate this very message into your writing. It's very important. And then delivery, how you will deliver your speech. If it's a political speech, the delivery should have a distinct way. And if it's an academic speech, it should have a distinct way. If it is a religious speech, it should have a distinct way of delivery. If it is an ethical or moral speech, it should have a distinct way of delivery. So the ways of delivery of a speech must be diverse or different, varied. You can't impose the way you apply while delivering a political speech. You can't impose it on an academic speech delivery. Suppose I am giving a lecture in your classroom. So I must talk like a teacher, not like a politician. This is very important. So while I talk to my students in my classroom, I talk like a teacher, an academician. I do not talk like a religious sermonizer. I do not talk like a politician. So while I go to the stage, a political platform to address my audience, then my way of delivery should be different. Totally different from my academic way of delivery. So delivery is to be considered while you are analyzing a speech. Then effectiveness. How effective your speech is. Suppose you speak and speak and speak for 40 minutes or 50 minutes or 60 minutes or 80 minutes. But unfortunately, you can't give any message. You can't fulfill your target. Your audience does not understand you. So that's a failure. Every delivery should be effective. Now, how will you make your delivery effective? You know it because you have learned some strategies that you can apply during your delivery of speech to make it effective. Okay. And then you have to examine the speaker's message. This is another important point that you have to think of. You have to think of it. That is what message you are giving. You are giving a political message to a student. This is not proper. You are giving an academic message to the political leaders. This is not a message. So message should suit your audience. Message should suit your atmosphere, your target, your content, your purpose. So message must be synchronized with all these aspects. Then rhetorical devices. A good speaker is a rhetorician. A good speaker is a rhetorician. You know it. Everybody speaks. Everybody speaks to communicate. Our only objective of speaking is to communicate. But if we can't speak sweetly, rhetorically, then it would be a challenge for us to sustain the attention of the audience. Just think of Barack Obama, our present-day world-famous speaker. He was the president of the United States of America for 2 terms. And if you visit YouTube and listen to him, if you listen how he speaks, I think he will be charmed. The way he speaks or the rhetorics that he applies during his speech are really exemplary. That is, you can follow all these unique qualities of Barack Obama as a great speaker. For example, once I listened to him in YouTube, of course, while he was addressing his voters just immediately before his presidential election. He starts in this way. I have a story, the story of struggle, the story of my journey to the fulfillment of my dream. And I believe my story is your story. I believe my story is America's story. My story is everybody's story. And then I found the reaction of the audience. The audience started clapping. They were giving big hands to Barack Obama. They were also cheering. They were shouting in joy. So why? Because they felt integrated with their leader, that their leader is not an alienated self. Their leader is an integrated part of their own self. So just think how rhetorically he unites himself with his audience. And the audience invests 100% concentration to his speech. They listen to him from beginning to the end with same concentration. Why? Because they discovered that that very man, that is the speaker, is their man. He belongs to them. They belong to him. So if you can create this kind of situation while you are delivering a speech, you must be a successful speaker and your speech must be effective. So if you want to make your speech effective, you have to employ some rhetorical devices. Okay. So rhetorical devices are to be marked during the analysis of the speech. And last of all, overall impact on the audience. You have to think of how the speech impacts the audience. Suppose you are speaking and speaking and speaking with no impact on your audience does not respond, your audience does not communicate, or you can't communicate with them, that would be a failure. So while delivering your speech, you must think of all these aspects. Otherwise, your delivery may not serve your purpose. So anyway, dear students, I think now you have got these points. These are the points that you have to keep in mind during the analysis of my speech. Now, let me be elaborate. I like to discuss some other points in detail and relate those points to these leading points. Just think of the purpose. This is the first one. So while analyzing a speech, think of the purpose of the speech and the message. So what things or what aspects should you consider while analyzing the purpose? Identify the speech's goal. So what should be the target? What should be the objective of your speech? That should be found out initially, okay? That is it to inform or persuade or entertain or inspire? Your speech may fall into different categories, different streams, or different classes or segments. You may deliver a speech to inform your audience, or you may deliver a speech to persuade, to inspire your audience. You may deliver a speech to entertain your audience. You may deliver a speech to inspire your audience. Okay. So just think, these are the purposes. Purposes vary. So your ways of delivery should vary. If your purpose varies, your way of delivery must vary. As I have already mentioned, that you can't deliver a religious speech in the way a teacher usually delivers his speech in the classroom. Or a teacher cannot deliver his speech in the classroom in the way a religious sermonizer addresses his audience in an open field. So you must know the purpose of the speech. That will help you to be meticulous, to be effective. Now come to the next point under the heading of this, that is purpose and message. Analyze the main argument or thesis. I think you know thesis sentence because in the classroom we have learned thesis statement. I think you can remember now. In the class we have learned, for example, attention getter, thesis statement, then connectors. So you have learned all these things. So analyze the main argument or thesis. So while analyzing our speech, just find out the thesis statement, in which sentence or in which sentences the speaker has incorporated his main argument. Okay, so you have to think of it. And next, evaluate the clarity. Evaluate the clarity. That is, your speech must not be vague. If your speech is vague, then your audience may not feel comfortable. So whether our speech is successful or not, if you want to know it, you have to think of the clarity and coherence. Suppose one passage should be connected to another passage. One sentence should be connected to the other sentence. Your speech is just like a spontaneous flow of a spring, fountain. Just think of a spring or fountain. A fountain flows from top to bottom, from upwards to downwards, very consistently, spontaneously, with murmuring sound. It flows, flows, and flows. Why do we go to visit the fountains or spring? We go there because we are attracted by the rhythm of the fountain. And this very rhythm creates music, or musical effect. And every human soul has got music. Whether you believe it or not, you possess music in the deep of your heart. So you love music. You love the song of the birds. You love the sound, murmuring sound of the river. So that's why we go to visit the fountain. There is rhythm in its flow. So your speech should be rhythmic. It should flow consistently from beginning to the end. It should be free from diversion. It should be free from interpolation, that is irrelevant things or irrelevant topics. You must always concentrate on what you want to say, not on some other things which are not related to or relevant to the topic that you want to focus. Then the next point that you have to think regarding speech analysis is the speaker's intended audience. That is, whether the speech or the speaker has rightly addressed the audience or not. Suppose you are addressing illiterate audience, the audience who do not know how to read and write. So you are addressing them. You have to speak in their language. You need not speak standard Bangla or standard English. You have to speak in the language that they usually speak. So audience is very important. They will decide your speech. You can't construct your audience. Rather, you will be constructed by your audience. You are your audience's construction. I cannot go to an auditorium and expect that all the people should think like me. I can't expect as a gentleman that all my listeners should think like me, should speak like me, should act like me. I can't never expect it. But they expect that I should serve their purpose. They want to listen something. And my purpose, my duty is to serve that very purpose, serve that very something that they want. So audience is very important. So while you are analyzing a speech, you have to think of this aspect, whether the speaker has rightly chosen the audience or doing justice to the audience or not. If he can do it successfully, then this delivery is successful. If he can't do it, he is not successful. Now think of this very particular aspect. This is how the speaker connects his speech, how the speaker connects his speech with the audience. The speaker is just like a bridge. He is just like a bridge. He stands in between the audience and his speech. So he is standing in between. His purpose is to connect these two. That is, I will connect my speech with my audience. If I can do it properly, then I'm a successful speaker. If not, then not. I'm not successful. So while you are analyzing a speech, you have to think whether the speaker has been successful in connecting his speech with his audience. Then come to the next point. Assess whether the speech is tailored to the audience's needs and interests. The speech must not be unnecessarily long. It must not be unnecessarily or unexpectedly brief. Then you may question, how long should a speech be? A speech should be as long as the expectation of the audience. So what my audience wants from me, that's important. I must not say anything that my audience does not expect from me. And I must not skip or give up anything that my audience wants to listen from me. So our speech should be mathematically calculated. I think you know about mathematics. Mathematics is the only subject that fits your brain. It is widely believed that mathematics is the only subject that fits your brain. If you want to fit your brain, you have to practice mathematics. Mathematics is very important. Now, mathematics in every aspect of your life. Now you are attending my class. You have to pay 100% attention to what I say. I have to pay 100% attention to what I say. So it's a matter of mathematics. If any party, that is either of these two parties, does not do justice to his duty, our negotiation, our interaction, our class will fail. So it's a mathematics. Life itself is a mathematics. So while you are preparing a speech, you have to give up all the unnecessary or irrelevant things. You need not incorporate any unnecessary examples or reference, but you have to add references if needed. If not needed, you need not add. So if you are a good speaker, while preparing your speech or delivering your speech, you have to know the interests of your audience. On the basis of the interests of your audience, you have to tailor. Tailor means customize. Customize your speech. Now, come to the next one, or next point. Examine the speech's organization. That is how you arrange your ideas. That is very important. How you arrange. Arrange your ideas one after another, one after another, one after another. As I have already mentioned, that your speech should be just like the flow of a fountain that flows from upwards to downwards, from upstream to downstream. And the flow should be consistent, continuous, incessant, spontaneous. So while organizing passages or paragraphs of your speech, one paragraph with another paragraph, you have to use appropriate connectives or connecting words, conjunctions. You have to use some appropriate crutch word may be necessary. Crutch word. Crutch word means, suppose you can't speak spontaneously. Those who think very deeply, profoundly, can't speak spontaneously. Remember, there is a problem. I can speak spontaneously, so it may mean that I am not a spontaneous thinker. I am not a very deep thinker. Because while thinking deeply, I have to collect my ideas one after another, organize these ideas, and then deliver these ideas in presence of my audience. So those who think very deeply or profoundly use some crutch words. Sometimes they produce some sounds, or can, or etc. I try personally to avoid these sorts of crutch words during my delivery of speech. But many people use these crutch words. It is not objectionable. Crutch words sometimes help the speaker become more informative. So anyway, organization of speech in a systematic way is essential. then you have to incorporate some examples. For example, you are delivering a speech. If you start your speech with a story about your personal experience, then you can easily connect yourself with your audience. So you have to start your speech with an interesting story, but the story must not be irrelevant. The story should be relevant. And that very story may come from your own experience. Then the audience may think that, oh, the subject matter or the topic about which you are talking or speaking is not an alien topic. It is not alienated from their thinking or from their knowledge. As you have your first-hand experience and you are sharing this first-hand experience with the audience, they can also share your experience and they will connect it to their own experiences. In this way, you can draw the attention of your audience. Okay. Then the next point, evaluate the use of rhetorical devices. As I have already told you that rhetorical devices are very important. Your speech should sound melodious, musical. If you do not sound melodious, melody does not mean that you will start singing like James or singing like Bollywood singers or our prominent singers of our country, Runa Laila or Indru Kishore. No, you need not sing. Your use of words, delivery of words, your spontaneity, your successful communication with your audience will create a rhythmic situation. As you know that speech is just like a mathematics. It is mathematically planned, constructed. So if you can apply this very particular knowledge in your delivery, then it will sound rhetorical. Rhetorical does not mean that you will use unnecessarily similes, metaphors, allegories, allusions, or innuendo, or climax, anticlimax, or you will use the terms from prosody, for example, meters, accents, or stress, iambic meter, or trochaic meter, or anapaestic meter, or you will use the rhyme schemes of sonnets, Petrarchan sonnet, Shakespearean sonnet, or Spenserian sonnet. No, you need not apply all these inscrutable devices into your writing. Your writing, your speech, your delivery must be smooth, comprehensible to your audience, communicate to your audience. That is the rhetoric. And if you want to understand this very particular aspect, I do suggest you to listen to Barack Obama, then Jack Ma. These are some of the prominent speakers all over the world, very prominent all over the world. Or Noah Harari, the writer of Homo Deus Nexus, very famous writer, a professor. So I think you can listen to them. That may help you a lot. Now come to the next one. Consider the use of language. Language is your memory bank. You are your language. Remember, the way you speak is the manifestation of your personality. The way you speak is the manifestation of your person. A good man speaks good language. A bad man speaks bad language. It is true. Your language is the manifestation of your person. Okay. Personality, this very term has come from the Greek term persona. Persona means mask. Mask. We are primitives by instinct. We want to take resort to indiscipline. We want to break the laws. So we are primitive by instinct, not civilized. But we are civilized artificially. Artificially means different rules, regulations, laws are imposed upon us. Controlling systems are imposed upon us. So we are civilized. That develops our personality. So personality is the meaning of personality is mask, M-A-S-K, mukhos, mask. So your language is your personality. You are your language. You speak, you use verbal expression, you use sign language, you move your hands, legs, face, you give facial expressions. All these constitute your language. Language does not only mean the verbal delivery. Language means your movement. Language means how you stand, how you laugh, how you smile, how you react, how you show your attitude to the other people's reactions to you. So all these things constitute your language. So while analyzing this aspect, we have to think of the language of the speech. Another important thing, the audience again decides the language. While you are addressing the academician, suppose you are delivering a speech in presence of professors, in presence of academicians, in presence of scholars or researchers. So your language should have the sophistication that must suit the environment of that very particular congregation. Or suppose you are addressing the government's workers. So your language should suit their language, their expectation, their level of learning. So language is very important. And then the speaker's delivery style. As I have told you repeatedly in my class, that you must not look robotic while speaking. You must not look robotic. You have to look very spontaneous. You have to move your hands, you have to move your eyes, you have to move your lips, you have to move your hands, legs, you have to move this way and that way, but not unnecessarily. All your movement should be well regulated. This is very important. You need not unnecessarily forget or that is run this way and that way. You have to move, but your movement should be mathematically calculated. So body language is very important, that we call kinesics. Kinesics is very important. Then another important aspect, body language and gesture. Gesture, the sign that you express. Suppose your audience is questioning you. So you have to show 100% politeness or decency. You have to accommodate questions. You must not show any sort of irritation. Okay, they may question you. They may want to talk to you. So you should accommodate them. You must not show any negative gesture. Now, vocal delivery. Vocal delivery, while you are speaking, you have to maintain your tone, pace. While you are speaking, you must not speak too fast or too slow. You have to measure a considerable quantity of space or paucity. You have to speak, then give pause, again speak, give pause, again speak, and give pause. Pause is essential. Pause will let your listeners think on what you say. And if they are allowed to think on what you say, they may have questions. They may have queries. And if they have queries, then your presentation will be more engaging, effective. Engaging presentation is essential to serve the purpose. Now, evaluate the overall impact of the speech. Overall impact of the speech, you have to evaluate. This is towards the end or towards the conclusion of your speech analysis. And then audience's reaction. What was the reaction, or what is the reaction of the audience? That is also essential to know. Whether they are happy, whether they are satisfied or not, whether they say that they have got what they wanted. If they say so, it's a successful speech. And then you have to assess the strengths and weakness. This is the last point that you have to think of while analyzing our speech. What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses in this speech? All these points may not be equally strong. All these points may not be equally weak. So you have to assess. You have to throw light on the weakness and strength of the speech. So I think these are the things that we must consider during the analysis of a speech. Now I'd like to invite questions from you. If you have any question on whatever I have discussed till now, please ask me. I like to listen to you. Do you have any question? Jabba, do you have any question?
Sir, can you provide us a detailed overview of strength and weaknesses? I didn't get the point.
Yes, detailed overview. Which point?
Sir, strength and weakness.
Strength and weakness. Okay. Strengths and weakness. For example, if a speech serves its purpose, then it is a strong speech, a strong delivery. Or suppose the speech or the delivery does not serve the purpose. It does not carry the message. It does not carry the content sufficiently. Or it does not have the rhetorical devices. These are the weaknesses. If a speech does not or cannot draw the attention of the audience sufficiently, that is the weakness. If a speech cannot give its message appropriate to its audience, that is the weakness. Or if a speech is not synchronized in terms of its language in relation to the audience, that is the weakness. Now, what are the strengths? If a speech can convey its message to its audience appropriately, this is the strength of this speech. Or if a speech is rhetorically sweet, very smooth, spontaneous, that is the strength. Or if our speech is synchronized with the audience, with the level of audience, this is the strength. So all these positive aspects are the strengths, and the negative aspects are the weaknesses. I think you have got your answer.
Yes, sir.
Now, any more question from anybody? No question? Okay, then, okay. Then today I like to just draw your attention to another important part of our lecture. That is the example of a speech, Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. And so far I can recollect, you had this question in your midterm exam. And I believe you could successfully answer to this question. Now look at this very speech. I will discuss it later in my next lecture. I will make you read this very speech minutely, and I will also help you analyze this speech. And I will share this material with you. I have got some points here. So I think that's all about our today's lecture. And